How about we go back to my parents' place for the next vacation?
That was the start of everything, and also the beginning of the end. My name is Kathy, a 35-year-old housewife. I married Bob, my husband, at work. Right after getting married, we were blessed with our lovely daughter, Emily, and I left my job. Now Emily is 6 years old, and we went back to Bob's parents' place, far away, for the first time.
Hey, isn't dinner ready yet?
Sarah's voice, Bob's mother, echoed through the room. Yes, Sarah, it'll be ready soon, I replied while bustling around. Sarah let out a deep sigh.
You're so slow, Bob. How do you put up with such a lazy wife?
Yeah, I know. Other wives are much more efficient. It's really troublesome.
What did you just say? You're just lying around watching TV. I was about to say something to Bob when Sarah's words rained down on me.
After you're done with breakfast, clean the yard, then organize the closet, and after that, clean up the shed outside.
This is supposed to be a vacation. Why am I being worked so hard when it's supposed to be a relaxing vacation? And I was getting really annoyed at Bob for just lounging around. By the time I finished the chores I was told to do, I was exhausted and couldn't move. I collapsed onto the living room couch. I'm so tired.
Who said you could rest? Get up and make lunch right now.
Sarah ordered without missing a beat. I've been working all this time. Let me rest a little.
A wife is like a housekeeper. Do you think you can just eat without working? Get to work.
You've got to be kidding me. Bob's parents' house is in the countryside. The countryside, for better or worse, holds on to old traditions. A wife is considered part of the family she marries into. That old-fashioned thinking must still be relevant here. Even so, I don't think wives were worked this hard even back in the old days. Bob, can you help me a little?
No way.
Bob quickly replied. He doesn't do anything at home. At his parents' house, he does even less, just lazing around. It feels like he hasn't moved from his spot since morning. Hey, I need to go buy groceries.
Oh, go ahead.
Help me out. The supermarket in the countryside is far away. Bob, who has a driver's license, started drinking since the morning, and I don't have a license. So, I had no choice but to walk. But a 30-minute walk one way is too much to handle alone. When I asked him to at least help carry the bags, Bob frowned.
No way.
Another immediate answer. And then Bob, right in front of me, dangled a beer can.
I'm too drunk to go.
Useless. From behind me, Sarah shouted.
Is lunch ready yet?
I finally went to the store alone and managed to get back. A 30-minute walk one way was really tough. And on the way back, I had bags in both hands. I staggered back to their house. I set down the bags and collapsed in the entrance, letting out a sigh. Then it happened.
Hurry up. Honestly, you're as slow as your mother.
Sorry.
I heard Sarah yelling and Emily apologizing. Forgetting my exhaustion, I jumped up and dashed towards the voices. I trampled over Bob, who was still lounging around. I think I heard a pathetic yelp from him, but I ignored it. I rushed to the kitchen where the voices came from. What are you doing? I shouted without thinking, and both Sarah and Emily looked at me.
Oh, Mom.
So, you finally came back.
Emily's face lit up when she saw me. I could see tears in her eyes. Sarah, sitting in a chair with a smug look, was facing Emily. What's going on here? At my question, Sarah snorted. Looking closer, I saw Emily holding a frying pan. Emily, what are you doing? Emily stammered as she explained.
Grandma said she was hungry and told me to prepare something. She told me to start by frying an egg.
Honestly, what a useless granddaughter who can't even fry an egg. What have you been teaching her? Like mother, like daughter. Is she really Bob's child?
Even I couldn't hold back when it came to my daughter. Sarah, Emily is only 6 years old. Telling such a young child to fry an egg. Sure, she knows how, but shouldn't you be able to do that yourself? How could you treat your own granddaughter like this? Sarah's face turned bright red, and she started screeching.
How dare you say that? Making an old woman work. What a horrible woman you are. Listen, a wife is a housekeeper. It's only natural for her to work in silence, and a housekeeper's daughter is also a housekeeper.
A housekeeper?
And who do you think you have to thank for your lifestyle? You live off the money Bob earns through his hard work. You should respect Bob and me. Stop complaining and get to work, housekeeper.
With that, Sarah stormed out of the kitchen. I was too stunned by her outburst to say anything. I was so taken aback that I couldn't find any words. Sarah seemed to head to the living room where Bob was. I heard their conversation.
Your wife is useless. She's worse than a housekeeper.
Well, Emily will be more helpful once she grows up a bit. Just a little patience.
You've had a hard time too, haven't you? You can always come back home, you know?
Divorce? That might be nice, but we still need a housekeeper, right? Hey, how about we move in together? I'm tired of my job anyway. Let Kathy work while I enjoy a relaxed country life.
His terrifying words sent chills down my spine.
Oh, that sounds great.
Sarah agreed, and I was left standing there, frozen. As I clenched my fists tightly, I suddenly felt a warm hand gently cover mine.
Mom?
It was Emily. I slowly looked at her face. Emily was looking up at me with a worried expression. I crouched down to her level and spoke softly. Hey, Emily,
What?
do you like Dad?
Well,
Emily couldn't answer right away. No wonder. Bob is indifferent to Emily. When he comes home from work, he barely talks to Emily, just lounges on the couch watching TV or playing with his phone. On weekends, he goes out drinking and comes home late. Since he can't go out drinking these days, he drinks at home until late at night. A hangover the next day is a given. During holidays, he either lazes around at home or goes out with friends. Family outings have been so few I can count them on one hand. In fact, I can't even remember the last time we went out together. This trip back to his parents' place, under the guise of a family vacation, is the first in months, maybe even years. I'm sure Bob doesn't know which class Emily is in at kindergarten, what she likes or dislikes. He has no interest in what Emily wants to be in the future. He probably doesn't even know she's starting elementary school next year. It's no surprise that Emily can't say she likes Bob. It's only natural. I asked again, "Do you like Grandma?"
no.
I couldn't help but smile at Emily's immediate response. Of course, after being yelled at like that. Then Emily said something unexpected.
Because Grandma bullies you, Mom. It's supposed to be a holiday, but you can't relax at all. She keeps telling you to do this and that. Grandma is so mean.
Kids notice a lot more than we think. Smiling wryly, I asked the important question. Emily, do you want to live with Grandma? Emily shook her head. Do you need Dad?
No,
A wonderful immediate answer. And my decision was made. The next day, I went out with Emily early in the morning. By the time we got back to their house, it was already night. When we walked in, Sarah and Bob were waiting impatiently.
You're finally back. What were you doing?
Just something. Seeing me dodge Bob's question, Sarah chimed in.
Honestly, young wives these days. Fine, you're officially the housekeeper now. Hey, housekeeper, I'm hungry. Is dinner ready yet? At least get me some coffee.
Always acting like a commander, Sarah was. I silently served them both coffee. As Bob reached for his mug, I swiftly snatched it away.
Hey, what the hell?
Bob looked bewildered. I poured the coffee all over his head.
Hey, what are you doing?
Relax. I made sure to cool it down.
That's not the point. Stop it.
I poured the entire mug of coffee over him and quickly dodged Bob's reaching hand to set the mug down.
Hey, what do you think you're doing to your master?
Sarah shouted, her eyes wide with anger. Shut up! I'm not your housekeeper or anything of that sort. Sarah stood up to yell, but I cut her off. A Sin's wife is not a housekeeper. If you didn't know, I'm telling you now. I am not a housekeeper. Sarah couldn't respond, so I continued. She was left gaping like a fish, unable to find any words. I glared at Sarah, who looked as if she was about to foam at the mouth, and moved my face close to hers. Sarah let out a strangled cry. Ignoring her, I leaned in. Our faces were just 4 inches apart. Listen closely. There's no such thing in this world as a wife who can be treated like a servant. I will protect my family, but I will not become the family's servant.
I am your husband's mother. I am family. So you should listen to me and obey my orders.
Are you even thinking straight? A real housekeeper wouldn't be family. How can you call yourself family while ordering me around like that? I responded calmly to Sarah's nonsensical statements. Her face, which had been pale a moment ago, turned bright red.
How dare you speak to me like that?
And you shouldn't speak to me in that tone. If you speak to me like that, I'll respond in kind.
Who do you think you are? Save the jokes for when you're asleep.
I had held back for a long time, but now I couldn't take it anymore. There is a limit to everything. Sarah and Bob's attitudes finally broke through my wall of patience. And what about your granddaughter? Do you think she's a housekeeper too? Treating your own granddaughter like a servant? Enough is enough. As I moved even closer, Sarah's face turned pale again. For all her bravado, just a bit of pushback had her crumbling. Sarah's thin veneer of toughness was almost laughable. I quickly pulled back and narrowed my eyes in disdain. Sarah's body was trembling slightly as she stood there, pale as a sheet. After observing her for a moment, I turned my attention to another person. Now it's your turn,
Yes.
Bob replied in a pitiful voice. I glared at him. While Emily and I were being treated like housekeepers, what were you doing?
Oh, I was on my phone.
And then?
Drinking beer.
So, while we were being treated like servants, you were enjoying your drinks? How convenient for you.
Sorry.
Bob whimpered as I shouted angrily, and he tried to hide behind Sarah. His pathetic behavior was giving me a headache. I decided to cut to the chase and pulled out a piece of paper. Enough of this. Sign this now.
What? What's that?
Bob, who had been hiding behind Sarah, cautiously peeked out. When he noticed the contents of the paper in my hand, his face instantly turned white.
Divorce papers? What is this?
We're getting a divorce, and I will never come back here again. Sarah and Bob stood there, mouths agape. I waved the paper in front of them. I've already filled out my part. I'll submit it to the office after the holiday, so sign it quickly.
That paper is fake. You can't get that from the office on a holiday.
Too bad for you. Divorce forms are available even on holidays, and you can download them from the internet. If I want, I can submit it today. As I thrust the divorce papers at Bob, he shook his head, almost in tears.
I don't want a divorce.
Are you worried about being without me?
Yes.
Is it because having me around makes things easier for you?
Yes.
Having a housekeeper like me makes your life comfortable, and that's why you want to stay married?
Yes. I mean, no, that's not what I meant.
You just admitted it. Bob whimpered at my terrifying expression. If he won't sign, I'll have to go through the trouble of getting a professional involved. Whether you sign it or not, the divorce is happening. I've already talked to my parents about it. Emily,
Yes, Mom.
are you ready?
Yep. I packed all my stuff.
In response to my call, Emily popped her head out. Emily raised her bag in her hand.
Hey, where are you going?
Holding my own bags, I turned back to Bob. Good question. We're going to my parents' place.
Hey, don't be ridiculous.
You're the one being ridiculous.
I wasn't being ridiculous.
You think it's normal to treat me and Emily like housekeepers? There's no point in talking to you. We'll discuss the divorce properly with a lawyer. Goodbye. I grabbed my bags and headed for the door with Emily. Bob persistently followed us.
Wait, you can't live without me.
His words made me stop in my tracks. I slowly turned around and Bob froze as well. Did you forget? I stared at Bob intently before asking.
Forget what?
I was more successful and earned more than you. I quit because I got pregnant. But even then, I was making more money than you are now. Bob's face turned pale at my words. We worked at the same place, but he had probably forgotten. How convenient for him. Although I've had a break, I plan to gradually return to work. My parents have offered to help. I'll be staying at my parents' place for a while. I'll gradually return to work, and even if I can't earn as much as before, we'll manage. No, I'll make sure we do. Seeing my determination, Bob was almost in tears.
I'm sorry. I'll change. Please, don't go through with the divorce.
You had plenty of chances to change, but you wasted them. It's too late for regrets. I reached for the front door. Then it happened.
Wait,
Sarah, who had been silent until then, called out. What now? Annoyed, I turned around to see Sarah with a troubled expression. What is it? I asked, frowning. Then Sarah shouted,
what about my meals?
Not my problem. I shouted back, and this time we finally left their house for good. Emily and I went straight to my parents' house. They welcomed us with smiles.
Oh dear, it must have been tough, even during your vacation.
Emily relaxed and went inside. The discussions with Bob, who refused the divorce, were difficult, but considering the fact that Emily rejected her father, we managed to finalize it. Of course, the child support was paid in a lump sum. There was no way I could trust Bob. As a result, the apartment we had lived in was sold, and Bob returned to his parents' house.
Mom doesn't do anything. Actually, she's worse than before.
One day, Bob called me, whining. Apparently, our neighbors had seen how I was being treated. The news of our divorce had also spread quickly, thanks to the small-town gossip network. As a result, Sarah was now shunned by the neighbors. It makes sense. Even in the countryside, treating a daughter-in-law like a housekeeper is unacceptable. Such outdated thinking is ridiculous. Because of this, she became more reclusive and took out her frustrations on Bob, treating him like a servant. In response, he argued back, and they ended up fighting every day. He complained over the phone. I planned to hang up after telling him that I had confirmed the child support payment. "You brought this on yourself," I said coldly. I could imagine Bob on the verge of tears on the other end of the line.
Please, can you help a little? I'm still Emily's father, and Mom is her grandmother.
In response, I smiled, even though he couldn't see me, and said, "I'm too drunk to go."
Hey, I know I was wrong.
"Who cares?" I yelled and hung up the phone. I blocked Bob's number immediately. Laughter is the best medicine. I couldn't stop laughing for a while after that.